The world has a new sexiest man alive, and let's just say no one's keeping their cool. When People magazine announced that Jonathan Bailey claimed the 2025 crown, the internet practically melted. The same man who made millions swoon as Lord Anthony Bridgerton is now officially Hollywood's hottest star. But here's the thing, Jonathan never thought of himself that way. In fact, while the rest of the world was gushing over his perfect jawline and dangerously charming smile, he was diving into the freezing ocean off the coast of London for fun. That's right. During his People cover shoot, it was his idea to take an ice cold swim before sitting down, wrapped in a cable knit sweater, sipping Bordeaux like a man straight out of a romance novel. And within minutes, everyone in the room, including the photographer, looked completely flushed. It's not just the looks, there's something magnetic about him. The warmth in his voice, the humor in his eyes, that effortless blend of confidence and humility. At 37, Jonathan Bailey has become the man everyone can't stop talking about. And yet he's still the one blushing when people call him sexy. But how did a shy, theater-loving kid from a small village in Oxfordshire end up becoming the man who redefined what sexiest even means? Because this story, trust me, is more than just a pretty face. And that was only the beginning. It all started with a single moment, one that Jonathan Bailey still remembers like it happened yesterday. It was 2020. The world was just discovering Bridgerton, Netflix's steamy period drama that would soon take over pop culture. Jonathan had already built a solid career on the British stage, but nothing could have prepared him for what came next. One morning, he woke up to the sound of his radio alarm, and instead of the usual morning news, he heard a voice say, "But first, can we talk about Jonathan Bailey?" He laughed in disbelief. I remember thinking, is this real? Did I dream that? It was the moment everything shifted. Overnight, Jonathan wasn't just an actor anymore. He was a phenomenon. Social media flooded with clips of him as Lord Anthony Bridgerton, brooding, passionate, perfectly torn between duty and desire. Memes, fan edits, entire TikTok trends were born from his scenes. Fans declared him the definition of romantic fantasy, and yet, behind that calm, confident exterior was a man trying to process what sudden fame even meant. Because while the internet fell in love with his on-screen intensity, Jonathan was still the same grounded guy who loved his family, his friends, and his quiet life by the sea. Bridgerton opened the door, and what came through that door would change everything. Long before the flashing cameras and red carpets, Jonathan Bailey was just a wide-eyed boy growing up in the English countryside. A kid with a wild imagination and a love for performing that no one could ignore. Raised in rural Oxfordshire with 3 older sisters, Jonathan often jokes that being the youngest in a noisy house taught him how to make himself heard. And maybe that's where the acting bug first bit. He was only 5 when his grandmother took him to see a performance of Oliver in London. The lights, the music, the emotions, it was magic. By the time the curtain fell, Jonathan turned to his grandmother and said, "That's what I want to do." And he meant it. Just 2 years later, he was performing with the prestigious Royal Shakespeare Company, sharing the stage with actors twice his age, already showing a natural command that hinted at something special. For most kids, acting might have been a dream. For Jonathan, it was destiny. But his journey wasn't some fairy tale overnight success. While his classmates were planning university, Jonathan was auditioning, facing rejections, and learned to build his craft the hard way. One stage role, one TV part at a time. He wasn't chasing fame, he was chasing truth in his performances. And that authenticity became his signature. That same passion carried him from the British theater scene to international stardom, from Shakespeare to Bridgerton and then to Fellow Travelers, where he stunned audiences as a closeted political aide torn between love and loyalty. The performance earned him an Emmy nomination and proved what many had already begun whispering. Jonathan Bailey wasn't just another pretty face, he was one of the most versatile actors of his generation. Then came the big leap, Hollywood blockbusters. His role as Prince Fiero in Wicked put him alongside Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo in one of the most anticipated movie musicals ever. And as if that wasn't enough, he stepped into the Jurassic World franchise, proving he could charm dragons and dinosaurs alike. But through it all, Jonathan never lost that kid from Oxfordshire, the one who just wanted to perform, because for Jonathan, the stage may have gotten bigger, but the dream has always stayed the same. Fame has a way of changing people, but somehow Jonathan Bailey never let it get to him. While most stars chase the spotlight, Jonathan seems perfectly content stepping out of it whenever he can. Maybe that's his secret. Even at the peak of his fame, you won't find him showing off luxury cars or throwing wild parties. Instead, you'll probably find him walking along the coast near his home in England, bundled in a hoodie with his dog Benson trotting beside him. It's a simple image, but it says everything about who he is: grounded, private, and refreshingly normal. During his People photo shoot, it was Jonathan who suggested jumping into the freezing ocean before the camera started rolling. Everyone thought he was joking. He wasn't. Moments later, he was waist deep in icy water, grinning like a kid. That's Jonathan, the kind of man who finds peace in chaos, who turns discomfort into energy. And somehow, that humility only makes him more magnetic. He enjoys the quiet rituals that keep him centered: a good swim, a glass of Bordeaux after a long day, and long talks with close friends who keep him honest. The same friends who, as he jokes, will squeal with delight when they finally find out he's just been named Sexiest Man Alive. It's not that Jonathan doesn't appreciate the attention, he's just never been consumed by it. He still calls his mom after big premieres, he still laughs at his own awkwardness in interviews, he still talks about his journey with gratitude, not ego. But what's even more fascinating is how he deals with the pressure behind that charm. Because for all his confidence and success, Jonathan has been open about the fact that self-doubt has always been part of his story. For someone the world now calls the sexiest man alive, Jonathan Bailey's relationship with confidence hasn't always been easy. In fact, beneath the poise and the picture-perfect smiles lies a man who has wrestled quietly with self-doubt and learned to rise above it. In interviews, Jonathan has admitted that confidence, for him, comes and goes in waves. At various moments in my life, I've been like, I've got this, he said once, and then suddenly it's met by a deep spike of fear and self-doubt. He remembers being a fearless kid, bold, curious, unafraid of anything, but somewhere along the way, that spark got tangled in the expectations of growing up, of being watched, of trying to fit into roles both on screen and off. We're all sort of trying to get back to the origin, aren't we? He reflected. That honesty is rare in Hollywood, and is part of what makes Jonathan stand out. His refusal to pretend. He's not afraid to talk about vulnerability or to admit that some days he feels uncertain. And lately, he's been finding peace in that authenticity, whether it's diving into the freezing sea with friends or taking quiet walks with his dog. Those little moments remind him of who he was before fame and who he still is beneath the headlines. When People magazine handed Jonathan Bailey the title of Sexiest Man Alive, his reaction wasn't what you'd expect. There was no dramatic celebration, no phone calls to brag to his friends, not even a social media post. Instead, Jonathan just laughed and said, "It's a huge honor and completely absurd." That's the thing about him. He wears fame like it's borrowed clothing. It looks great on him, but you can tell it's not what defines him. In fact, when asked who he told about the big news, he didn't hesitate. "Just my dog Benson." And he's keeping the secret. It's this mix of humor and humility that makes people fall for him even harder. While some actors might let a title like that go to their head, Jonathan seems more amused than impressed. He knows how ridiculous it all can be, being named the sexiest anything. And yet, behind that lightheartedness is a quiet understanding of how far he's come. His close friends, the ones who've known him since childhood, tease him endlessly about the title. He laughs along, saying they'll squeal with delight when they finally find out. But those same friends also know the real Jonathan, the one who's been through heartbreaks, setbacks, and self-doubt, the one who worked tirelessly for years before anyone knew his name. Behind the cover shoots, the perfectly styled photos, and the cinematic charm is a man who still worries about doing a good job, about being kind, about keeping his feet on the ground. And maybe that's why this title feels almost poetic, because for once, the world is recognizing that sexiness isn't arrogance, it's authenticity. Even the sexiest man alive has his quirks, and Jonathan Bailey's are surprisingly relatable. Behind the dazzling smiles, award nominations, and blockbuster roles, he's a man who's not afraid to admit when he's failed or simply forgotten. Take his experience with Open University courses, for example. Jonathan signed up for 9 different classes, covering everything from volcanoes to Leonardo da Vinci, thinking he could handle it all. But life, as it often does, had other plans. He didn't finish most of them, and in true Jonathan fashion, got expelled. I did finish my music course, he laughs, but by the time I got to the volcanoes and tsunami class, well, I didn't quite make it. It's the kind of story that makes it feel human, even more so than his red carpet glamour. What's inspiring is that he doesn't dwell on failure. Instead, Jonathan treats it as a lesson, a curiosity to return to someday. He's determined to go back and finally uncover what happens with volcanoes. There's a childlike wonder in that, a reminder that no matter how much success you achieve, there's always room to learn, to grow, and to explore. In a way, those unfinished lessons mirror his career: ambitious, daring, sometimes messy, but always moving forward. And perhaps that's what fans love most about him. Jonathan Bailey isn't just a polished Hollywood star, he's a work in progress. Someone chasing curiosity, adventure, and growth, all while making it look effortlessly charming. In the end, Jonathan Bailey's story isn't about perfection, it's about presence, the kind that draws you in not because he's flawless, but because he's real. From the boy who fell in love with theater at age 5 to the man now crowned the sexiest man alive, his journey has been about more than fame, more than glamour. It's been about becoming comfortable in his own skin. He's proven that charm isn't in the abs or the tuxedos. It's in the kindness behind a smile, the sincerity in his laughter, the humility that never left him, even as the world began to chant his name. Jonathan's sex appeal doesn't come from mystery. It comes from honesty. He's not performing when the cameras are off. He's just himself. And in an industry built on illusion, that's what truly makes him magnetic. Being named Sexiest Man Alive might seem like the peak, but for Jonathan, it's just another chapter. Because his story isn't defined by a headline or a photo shoot. It's defined by how he treats people, how he faces his fears, and how he keeps chasing the next dream with the same humble fire that started it all. And maybe that's why this title feels right. Because Jonathan Bailey didn't just win the world's attention, he earned its respect. So, what do you think? Did People magazine get it right this year? Or was there someone else you had in mind for the crown? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more untold Hollywood stories that reveal the truth behind the fame.